The most powerful ruler in ancient China conquered 6 kingdoms. Then a mystic asked him for thousands of young people, boarded a fleet, sailed into the Pacific, and never came back. A popular Chinese folk legend says that fleet reached Japan and carried with it the seeds of Chinese civilization. History has never proved that part. But the fact that the emperor believed the voyage could defeat death tells us something important. Qin Shi Huang had conquered almost everything a human being could conquer. Everything except time. In 1974, farmers digging a well near Lebanon struck something hard beneath the soil. It was not a rock. It was a soldier. Then another. Then an army. Thousands of life-sized clay warriors had been waiting underground for more than 2,000 years, infantry, archers, horses, chariots, officers, an entire military command frozen in formation. They guarded the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor. Hollywood later turned him into a fire-breathing dragon emperor. The real man had no magic. He had something much more powerful, a system. Before Qin Shi Huang, there was no single Chinese empire. There were rival states, shifting alliances, betrayals, sieges, and generations of war. Qin sat on the western edge of this world. Its enemies mocked it as rough, provincial, almost barbarian. That was their first mistake. Frontier life had made Qin hungry, practical, and very good at organizing violence. While richer courts admired elegant traditions, Qin studied a colder question: how do you make an entire state move like one machine? The answer came from a reformer named Shang Yang. He attacked inherited privilege and rewarded results. Noble blood no longer guaranteed importance. Military achievement could raise an ordinary man through the ranks, failure could ruin a prince. Farming was rewarded because grain fed armies. Households were registered because people could be taxed and mobilized. Laws were strict, punishments were brutal, and responsibility was shared across families and neighbors. It was not freedom. It was efficiency, sharpened into a weapon. In 246 BC, a 13-year-old boy named Shang Yang inherited the throne of Qin. By the time he took full control, the machine was ready. From 230 to 221 BC, Qin armies destroyed the remaining 6 rival states one after another: Han, Zhao, Wei, Chu, Yang, and Qi. 10 years. 6 kingdoms. 1 survivor. Shang Yang rejected the old title of king and created a new one for himself, Huangdi, emperor. He would not be one ruler among many. He would be the first emperor. Conquest was only the beginning. The new empire still spoke through different scripts, traded with different coins, measured goods with different standards, and answered to old local powers. Qin Shi Huang attacked that chaos. He imposed a standardized written script. He unified weights, measures, and currency. He standardized cart axles and expanded roads so officials, soldiers, taxes, and orders could move across the realm. He replaced hereditary kingdoms with commanderies run by appointed officials. Think of it as an operating system for empire: one format, one network, one center of control. That system helped hold an enormous territory together, but it came with a terrifying price. Qin demanded taxes, military service, and labor on a colossal scale. Workers built roads, palaces, frontier defenses, and the emperor's vast tomb complex. Harsh laws made disobedience dangerous. Texts were destroyed, critics were punished, and power flowed upward to one man. Qin Shi Huang was neither a cartoon monster nor a modern hero. He was a brilliant builder of institutions, and a ruler who believed order mattered more than mercy. Nothing expressed that contradiction better than his tomb. Underground, craftsmen created thousands of warriors with different faces, ranks, hairstyles, armor, and gestures. This was not decoration. It was an afterlife state: soldiers to defend him, officials to serve him, horses and chariots to move him through eternity. Above ground, the emperor toured his realm, inspected officials, reviewed mountains of documents, and searched for medicines that might keep him alive. The man who controlled millions was terrified by the one command his body would not obey. Then came Xu Fu, an occult specialist with an irresistible promise. Far across the Eastern Sea, he said, were sacred islands where immortals guarded the medicine of eternal life. Qin Shi Huang gave him ships, supplies, craftsmen, and thousands of young men and women. Xu Fu sailed away, and returned without the elixir. His explanation was magnificent: a giant sea creature had blocked the route. Instead of executing him, the emperor sent him out again, better supplied and protected. This time Xu Fu vanished. And here history becomes legend. A popular Chinese folk story says Xu Fu crossed the sea to Japan. It says his people brought seeds, farming knowledge, crafts, and the first sparks of Chinese civilization to a new shore. Places in Japan still preserve local traditions about his landing, and more than one site claims his grave. The timing makes the tale irresistible. But no surviving evidence proves that Xu Fu reached Japan, and historians do not treat the legend as confirmed history. It survives because it is the perfect ending to the voyage. The emperor searched for immortality, while the man he trusted escaped into another country's origin story. Qin Shi Huang died in 210 BC during an imperial tour. The exact cause remains uncertain. His officials feared that news of his death would trigger chaos, so they concealed it while the convoy traveled back toward the capital. The traditional account says carts of fish were added to disguise the smell. It worked only for a while. Court intrigue followed, rebellions exploded, and in 206 BC the Qin Dynasty collapsed. The empire that was meant to last 10,000 generations survived for only about 15 years. But the punchline is that Qin still won. Later dynasties rejected its worst excesses, yet they kept much of its basic architecture: the emperor, the centralized bureaucracy, commanderies, standard systems, and the idea of one political realm. Qin Shi Huang failed to make his body immortal. He failed to make his dynasty immortal. But he built a model that outlived them both. And if you are wondering whether the name China itself may also come from Qin, that mystery has its own episode on this channel. Subscribe for more Chinese stories that are stranger, darker, and far more human than the version most of the world knows.